Well, IRT's been flying horses around the world now for over 45 years, literally covering all corners of the globe, but the majority these days are Europe, USA and the Asian countries of Singapore, Hong Kong, China and of course across the Tasman. The company was founded by Quentin Wallace over 45 years ago, and I'm his nephew, and we've also got his son now working in the business also. So it's flying right down the line, a bit like the Hayes family, I'm sure. Quentin was flying horses for Colin Hayes many years ago, and here we are today flying horses for David.
Well, IRT started in 1972. This was 5 years after I'd started in the business in the UK, and it was basically because there was an opportunity to fly horses to Australia because the Suez Canal was closed to the import of horses, and so was the Pacific Canal due to outbreaks of diseases in those areas. Our headquarters is here in Melbourne. To that we've got a small operational office in Sydney, and then we have full-time offices in Auckland, Los Angeles, Chicago, Newmarket, UK, and in Germany. From the start of IRT, I'd had contact with Lindsay Park and with Colin Hayes importing horses on a regular basis. Then in the early 80s, Robert Sangster and Colin got together for the import of Godswalk to stand at Lindsay Park, and that's really where our relationship blossomed. Well, the initial flights travelled via Canada, Honolulu, Auckland to Sydney, where the quarantine station was, which was a pretty arduous journey, but that was the route that was approved by the Australian Quarantine Inspection Service. Subsequently, we were allowed to import horses using the route via Asia, which meant that we would stop in the UAE and then stop in Singapore and bring them to Sydney. This was a great improvement because it shortened the amount of flight time, and that meant that the horses would arrive with less travel stress. In the early 70s, when we started flying horses to Australia, we'd travel in 707 aircraft. Today we've moved on to 747 aircraft, which are a lot roomier and have much better airflow. Whilst this is one of the improvements, the next improvement was the building of much better jet stalls for the horses to travel in, which gave far more comfort, and the invent of now travelling most of our flights with vets on them to be able to treat travel stress en route.
So as you see here, this is our latest investment to find a better way to move horses around the world. Loading outside on the airport with wind, rain, cargo going past, flashing lights just wasn't suitable for the high value bloodstock, but also the pets that we have travel around the world for other people. So this investment is another way that IRT is continually trying to find a better way to do things. The horses are loaded into air stables that can have up to 3 horses in them, but as you'd see with race horses and things like that, we typically have 1 or 2 horses in them when they travel. It's a lot of work that people don't actually see in terms of just the blood testing, the vaccinations, making sure that they're going to be good not just to travel but also when you race or compete at the other end when you get there. There's also the quarantine inspections, the health certificate that goes with them, the accuracy of that health certificate. There might be a passport to travel with the horse, and that's just at this end before we even get on the plane, and then you've got to do all the quarantine requirements when they get to the other end as well.
Well, we've moved a lot of Kentucky Derby winners, some the Derby winners, the UK Derby, horses like Fujiaki Pegasus, Real Quiet, just to mention a couple that come to mind, and of course Black Caviar, who is the darling of Australia, is probably the most important Australian horse we've ever moved.
Fantastic to be able to travel the horses for leading stables like Lindsay Park around the world. More and more there's the opportunity not only for the trainers to get an international recognition for their training skills, but also the owners love the opportunity to go and see their horse run at an overseas event.